What becomes of a legend when they simply vanish from the sky? Amelia Earhart was more than just a pilot. She was a global icon, a symbol of courage and modern womanhood. Embarked on the most ambitious flight ever attempted. A 29,000-mile journey to circumnavigate the globe at its equator. They had conquered continents and oceans, and with only 7,000 miles left, they took off from New Guinea, aiming for a tiny speck in the Pacific called Howland Island. It was a flight into a vast, unforgiving emptiness. Then, after a series of fragmented radio transmissions filled with static and growing uncertainty, there was only silence. The world's most famous female aviator, her state-of-the-art Lockheed Electra, and her trusted navigator had disappeared without a trace. An unprecedented search effort found nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no final message. Just an ending that was never written, leaving behind a mystery that has captivated and baffled generations, fueling a search that continues to this very day. Where did she go? By 1937, Amelia Earhart was more than an aviator. She was an American icon, a symbol of modern womanhood and boundless possibility. Dubbed the Queen of the Air, her celebrity was forged in the skies but polished on the ground with relentless media attention. With her tousled hair, disarming smile, and an effortless grace that belied her fierce determination, she captivated a nation desperate for heroes while emerging from the Great Depression. She was a poet of flight, a best-selling author, and even a fashion designer, her influence extending far beyond the confines of the cockpit. Every triumphant landing was a national headline, every public appearance a meticulously orchestrated event. She represented a profound break from the past, a forward-looking, adventurous spirit that resonated deeply with millions. Her ambition was not merely personal, it was a powerful public statement that the sky was no longer the limit for anyone, especially women. This immense fame provided the crucial platform for her ultimate, most audacious dream: a full circumnavigation of the globe at its widest point, the equator. It was a grueling 29,000-mile flight no one had ever attempted, a final, definitive testament to her pioneering life. The world watched, holding its breath, as she prepared to conquer the last great frontier of aviation. The dream required a machine as advanced as the ambition itself. The Lockheed Electra 10E, a gleaming, twin-engine marvel, it was a flying laboratory, heavily modified for the immense journey. Extra fuel tanks filled the fuselage, replacing passenger seats with the capacity for a staggering 1,150 gallons of gasoline. Planning was a monumental undertaking, involving navigator Fred Noonan, a seasoned Pan Am pilot with unparalleled experience in Pacific routes. Their first attempt in March 1937, flying westward, ended abruptly in Hawaii. During takeoff, a ground loop incident severely damaged the aircraft, collapsing the landing gear and scraping a wingtip. The public saw a setback. Earhart saw a lesson. Undeterred, she had the Electra shipped back to California for extensive repairs. The plan was reversed for a second attempt, this time flying east to west, to take advantage of favorable global weather patterns. The failed first try only seemed to harden her resolve, adding a layer of dramatic tension to the upcoming flight. She was not just flying for a record, she was now flying to overcome a public failure, with the entire world watching her every move. The Electra was not just an airplane, it was her arrow, aimed at the heart of the globe. On July 2, 1937, Earhart and Noonan lifted off from New Guinea, embarking on the most perilous leg of their journey. Before them lay 2,556 miles of open ocean, a vast, featureless expanse of blue. Their destination was Howland Island, a minuscule coral speck in the Central Pacific, barely 2 miles long and half a mile wide. Hitting it was a supreme navigational challenge, likened to finding a postage stamp in a football field. Their journey was a grueling race against fuel consumption and fatigue. Inside the hot, loud cockpit of the Electra, communication was difficult. They flew through the day under a relentless sun, relying on Noonan's celestial navigation skills. As the hours wore on, The strain became immense. The endless horizon offered no landmarks, only the changing position of the sun and the stars that would follow. They were utterly alone, a tiny silver speck suspended between the infinite sky and the indifferent ocean. Their survival depended entirely on their calculations being perfect and their fuel holding out. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in fiery hues, the urgency mounted. They were now flying into darkness. Racing the sun to a destination they had to trust was waiting for them in the blackness ahead. Near Howland Island, the crew of the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca waited, their ship serving as a radio beacon. As dawn broke on July 2nd, the airwaves crackled to life. Earhart's voice, faint but clear, came through. "We must be on you, but cannot see you," she reported. The Itasca's radio operators tried desperately to get a bearing on her signal, but it was too short. They transmitted, asking her to hold her signal longer, but received no reply. Over the next hour, a series of transmissions painted a portrait of growing uncertainty. "We are circling, but cannot see you." The Itasca's crew sent up thick black funnel, a visual signal against the gray, overcast sky, but the plane remained unseen. Then came the most haunting message, at 8:43 a.m. Itasca time. "We are on the line, 157, 337. We will repeat this, on 6,210 kilocycles. Wait." Her voice was strained. She was flying a sun line, and navigation was just a line, not a point. The Itasca's operators listened to the static, their faces etched with concern. There was one more faint, garbled transmission, and then nothing. The whispers from the Electra ceased, replaced by an unnerving, profound quiet. The silence from the Electra launched the most extensive and expensive air and sea search in American history, up to that time. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard immediately deployed a massive fleet, including the battleship Colorado and the aircraft carrier Lexington. Over the next 16 days, ships and planes scoured 250,000 square miles of the Pacific Ocean. Hope was a flickering candle against the vast, indifferent expanse of water. Search pilots flew exhaustive patterns, their eyes straining for any sign of wreckage, an oil slick, or floating debris. They found nothing. The world, which had followed her journey with rapt attention, now waited in collective suspense. Newspapers ran speculative headlines, and radio broadcasts provided constant, yet empty, updates. On July 19, 1937, with all logical hope exhausted, the official search was called off. Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan were declared lost at sea. The end of the search was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of an enduring mystery that would captivate generations. The woman who had lived her life in the full glare of the public spotlight had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a legacy of courage and a profound, unanswered question that echoes across the decades. The search for Amelia Earhart did not end with the last radio silence. It merely shifted, transforming into a decades-long archaeological quest. One of the most compelling theories centers on a remote, uninhabited coral atoll, then known as Gardner Island, now Nikumaroro. 1940. British colonial officer Gerard Gallagher stumbled upon what he believed was a castaway's campsite. He reported finding a partial human skeleton, a woman's shoe, a sextant box, and remnants of a fire. The bones were sent to Fiji for analysis, but were subsequently lost, a crucial piece of evidence vanishing into the fog of history. The International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, or TIHAR, has since launched numerous expeditions to Nikumaroro, convinced that Earhart and Noonan landed their damaged Electra on the island's reef flat. They believe the aviators survived for days, perhaps weeks, sending out desperate radio calls, their voices becoming faint echoes on a deserted shore, waiting for a rescue that would never arrive. The island holds its secrets tightly. buried beneath the coral sand and the relentless sun. Long after the official search was abandoned, the airwaves crackled with phantoms. Across the Pacific and even in North America, amateur radio operators and casual listeners reported hearing faint, desperate messages they attributed to Earhart. One of the most famous accounts comes from Betty Klink, a teenager in Florida who meticulously transcribed what she heard in her notebook. The fragmented signals spoke of a crash, of Noonan being badly hurt, of water rising. Were these genuine transmissions from a downed Electra, their signals bouncing unpredictably across the ionosphere at night? Or were they cruel hoaxes and misinterpretations, the product of wishful thinking and static-filled frequencies? Mainstream experts at the time dismissed them, citing the impossibility of such long-range transmissions from the aircraft's low-powered radio. Yet the stories persist, forming a ghostly epilogue to the flight. They suggest a final chapter not of immediate catastrophe, but of a slow, unfolding tragedy. Amelia's last words were not a final, clear transmission to the Itasca, but perhaps a collection of scattered pleas, lost and forever written on the wind.